Okay, this is going to be an introduction to using sprite sheets in Xor. Just to give you a quick introduction to what a sprite sheet is, I just googled sprite sheet, and you can see here that you get these images that have a bunch of images inside of it. And, well, what does that mean? What can you do with it? Well, if you go from one to the next, 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 you'll notice that this is a animation of a walking Smurf, right? So the objective is to only show one at a time and rotate through them, and it'll look like an animation. Now, that's one way to use a sprite sheet. Another method of using a sprite sheet is for iconic control in CSS. So you'll find that Bootstrap, for example, uses sprite sheets to display the different icons inside of iconic buttons. And this is something that we can also do in Xor, which will become useful when creating master buttons. So you'll see that these are all the same button. They're all come from a master button, and you'll see they all have the same icon inside. But if we drill down, and let's open up this one, and we drill down and we look at this, these are actually the exact same icons that Bootstrap uses. I'm using these as an example, but you'll see that there's all these different icons, but we're only showing this one drinking glass. I don't know what it is, right? But we can grid these out and basically tell on load, we can tell these buttons what to be. So I'm telling this first one, hey, I want you to be glass, and I'm telling the second one, hey, I want you to be a letter, and I'm telling the third one, hey, I want you to be a check mark, so forth. So that when we generate, generate, we'll see that we have a different icon on each of these buttons, right? And there's lots of different things you can do it. To give you an example of the animation, like I was saying, and I can control this at any time, go, stop, because basically I'm running it every, however many seconds I'm telling it move to the next. And same thing here, here's a controlled loader, and it blipped there for a second because I have some common variables between these two. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to create a loader, and the majority of the sprite sheets that I've shown you thus far have been grids. This one's going to be in a horizontal line because it'll be much easier to operate and deal with, and there's no reason to get complicated with it. So I'm going to let's make this a little bit fancier. Let's use a pinwheel. So I'm going to bring a pinwheel in from my auto shapes. A pinwheel basically allows you to control several things. I can control the radius of the inside of the circle. So let's first create. I want to create 4 lines. So I can create the radius of the inside. I can edit how many swirls are inside of it, and then of course I can edit how big around it is. So right now it's let's see here. So now I can come in here and change some of the different styles. So I'm going to change this to some form of green, right? That looks terrible, but we're going to go with it. And I want to go ahead and have it be more of a swirl. See, now we have this kind of like this swirl looking thing. I'm going to select this color just because it's killing me. I'm going to select something a little bit softer on the eyes. Okay, so here we have this swirly shape, right? And we want to go ahead and animate it, kind of like I had animated the other one. So the first things first, let's make it look a little bit more interesting, right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a little bit of noise just to have it be a little less invasive. The next thing I want to do is add a glow. I want to add, let's say, an inner glow, and I want to add a light inner glow. And that'll kind of give it that magical, this is doing something special look. I also want to add an outer glow. And this will kind of just make it look like it's like a shadow, basically, like we're doing something kind of a little bit removed. It's above the working space, right? So here we have it, right? So we want to animate this because we think it's going to look pretty cool. We want it to spin around in circles. So how do we do that? Well, Fireworks basically is optimized for doing things like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my shape. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to go ahead and I can select animation or convert to symbol. First thing I need to do is convert to a symbol. So you can see I can also select to animate it here, and I'll call this radial spinner. Let's go ahead and I'll show you another way. So I'm going to keep this as a graphic, so that we can start working with it. Now I want to go ahead and bring up my layers panel, because there's a couple things that we're going to be working with. We're going to be working with states, and we're going to be working with layers. And it looks like I already have some states in here from a previous animation that I was working on, so I'm going to delete those. But when you're starting from scratch, you should see just this one object in your layer, and then if I go back to my states, there should just be this one state. But like I said, I want to animate this, so there's lots of different ways to do it. The way that I think is easiest is once you have a symbol, you just right click on it, say animate, and I'm going to animate the selected. Now this animate dialog comes up, and it's going to ask me how many states. So a state is basically how many frames. And if I did it in 2 frames, it would be really jagged. If I did it in 200, it would be extremely clean, but way too many images to deal with. So I'm going to say this part 4, 8, 12, something like maybe 15 states should be more than plenty. And I don't want it to move at all, so I'm going to set this to 0, and I don't want it to move in any direction. I don't want it to change size, so that stays at 100. Those are percentages. Opacity, I don't want it to change in opacity. Even though I could, it might be fun to kind of have it fade in and fade out, but for this, we just want it to spin, rotate 360 degrees, and we want it to spin counterclockwise, just because that's the direction of these little spirals. I think it'll look better. So let me go ahead and do that, and it's going to say, hey, you only have 1 state, can I create some more? And I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead. So you can see it's created that. So I can go ahead and test it. Let me close my outer shape. Sorry, I should have cleaned this all up before I started. If I press play, down here you'll see it's spinning, and that looks pretty cool, right? Yeah, great. We've done a great job. So I'm going to go ahead and press stop. Select this. Now to convert it to a sprite. As of CS6, it's made it very easy to create sprites. If you don't have CS6, there's actually a panel that you can download. It's window. It is called EU Choice CSS Sprite Maker and Tools. You can use that, but since I have CS6, I'm going to be using the internal method. So I'm just going to select this. The first thing that we need to do is we need to create a slice around it. So I'm just going to right click on it and say insert rectangular slice, right? And so it automatically knows where the width of the shadows are and everything. And I know here that that's how big I want it to be. So it went ahead and did this. And the truth is, all this extra space on the side isn't really anything necessary. If I wanted to, I could even come up to my canvas and say trim canvas. And so, I mean, really, this is all I'm dealing with. This is all I really So once I have this, the first thing I want to do is I want to look at what my width was. It's 265. So I'm going to just create a little notepad plus plus, and let's go ahead and create a new, and I'm just going to, oops, let's show an image. Let's see here, 265. So 265, oops, 5, and width, and 265 height. So we'll need that a little bit later, but let's go ahead and convert this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to my export option, and I want to let me create a new folder called animation, and I'm going to want to come here to this export, and I want to select CSS sprites. Now the interesting thing about Fireworks is, okay, well, let me continue here. So pages, I want current page. I don't have multiple pages. And then see here where it says current state only. If it's checked, you want to make sure it's deselected because we have multiple states, so we want to get all of those states. Let's go into options and look at it. Now the class and ID are important if you're dealing with CSS, which we're not going to be really. We just want the image that comes out of it. The other thing that's important to us, the other two things that are important, is layout and optimization and padding. So padding is going to add extra width to the side of it and to the tops and to the bottom. And 10 pixels is going to be fine. We need to make a note of that as well. 10 pixel padding, so that when we're doing the math, we know how much to add onto the top and the bottom. Layout, horizontal, vertical, grid. We're going to make it horizontal just because that's a lot easier to work with. Optimization, you can see we can do a whole bunch of different things. We could even make an animated GIF, but what we're interested in doing is PNG32 because I want to retain my transparencies as well as keep a high level of fidelity. So let me go ahead and save this radial Azure PNG. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go into that folder, animation, and let's open up this this file to see what the heck it did. So it's loading. Okay, look, great. So it worked just great. You'll see that we have a state for each one of the rotation parts like we wanted. You'll see that there's a little 5 pixel padding up here and a 5 pixel padding down there, and you'll see that you may not see it here, but there's a 10 pixel padding inside that'll allow us to have a little bit of space to work with, so the shadows aren't touching shadows. So let's now go into Fireworks or into Azure. I'm going to create this radial. Open it up. Now I want to bring in a dot image, so I just swipe one in, and I'm going to come up here to projects. I think that's in my Fireworks projects. So, let's see here. Fireworks and animation, and let's go ahead and bring this in. Now it's going to pop up and say, would you like to optimize it? For the sake, I'm going to say no because it's the only thing that we're doing. And then do you want to auto size the image? So that's asking me basically, do I want to keep the original size? And I'm saying yes, I want to keep the original size. Otherwise, it would have matched the old size of this little thing they brought in, and that would have been terribly squished. And I'll show you what it would look like, just because that's funny. right? That's what it would look like. Not so much you can do with that. So let's get started. So here is the image that we want to deal with, and we know that we're dealing with 10 pixel padding, and we know that we're dealing with how many states did I do? I think I said 15 states. Let's count them real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yep, 15 states. Great. And just so I don't get forgetting that again, 15 states. We're going to come back in here. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to convert this to a dynamic panel. And I'm going to call this the mover, right? Or let me give it something a little bit more appropriate, sprite underscore mover. I'm going to right click on it again, and I'm going to convert it to another dynamic panel. And I'm going to call this dynamic panel sprite underscore controller. Okay, so why did I create two? Well, the reason is this first, the controller is going to do two things. Number one is it's going to cut down the size, or the visual size, basically mask out everything except for what I'm dealing with here. So what size do I want this to be? I know that the object that I'm dealing with is 265 by 265, so I can create this and make it 265 by 265, but you'll see that it's cutting off the top and the bottom. Well, that's because there's that 10 pixel padding. So let's go ahead and make this 275 by 275, and now we should it should look a lot better. I'm going to go inside of here, and I can actually go inside of here also. I'm going to just go ahead and just because we don't need extra space, so I'm going to, as far as this top and side piece are concerned, I'm going to lose that padding. I'm going to get rid of it. So you can see it's -10, -10. Basically put it off screen, and I'm dealing with the actual image right here. So now I don't really have to deal with let me go back to, this is the original. I don't have to really deal with that. So height, I'm going to make that 265. So now we know the top and bottom are even. I can make the width 265 too, 265, and I should have it be the same on all sides. Great. So to get started with the controller. The controller is going to do a couple of things. We're going to use it to keep the loops and keep track of where it is, and we're also using it to cut off all of this, right, with 265. So it's also kind of masking the image behind it. And the reason why this one right here, the sprite mover, is because we can only move dynamic panels, right? So there's no reason to not have it be in a dynamic panel. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a button, and we're going to call it the Go button, because we want to be able to say go. My caps lock button on, go. And let's go ahead and make a linear gradient, and let's just make it a gray button. I want this to be at 90 degrees. And so that's, a nice ugly button. Oh man, just because gradients exist doesn't mean you should use them. Okay, so and let's cut out the color, make it a little bit lighter, a little bit less contrast. Okay, so now we have our little spinner, and we have a go button. So this is what we want. When I press go, I want each one of these to move to the left. So basically to go negative on the x-axis. And how much do they need to go negative on the x-axis? Well, it's 265 plus 10. So every time that I press go, it needs to go negative 275 pixels. So let's go ahead and do that and test it. So I'm going to say on click, and I want to move the panel, and I'm going to move the sprite mover. I'm going to say let's move by, and I'm doing by because we'll have more control with variables later. I could also say 2 if I wanted to memorize every single point where it needs to go, which could be important if you're dealing with a more complicated sprite, but with this it's not. So I want to move negative 275, right? And I don't want to animate it because it is an animation in and of itself. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So every time I press go, let's go down here. Every time I press go, hey, look at that, it worked perfectly. So every time I press go, I just hit F5. Every time I press go, it is moving to the left, and it looks like it's an animation, right? So it's working great. Well, did you see what happened after I pressed go too many times? It disappeared, right? Because it finally went all the way out. So we know that we have 15 stops. So let's go ahead and create another animation, or let's create basically a way to say, hey, if I've pressed go 15 times, then don't allow it to keep on going. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a condition, and I've already created some variables, but let's go ahead and create a new variable. I'm going to create a new variable. I'm going to call this sprite. I already have a sprite counter, but I'm going to call it sprite counter 2. So, and I'm going to say if the value sprite counter 2 is less than the value, and we had 15, so I'm going to say 14. The reason why it's 14 is because basically I'm not going to be initializing it to 1, so basically 0 counts as 1, and yada yada. It's not important. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to say, if it's less than 14, go ahead and move it negative 275. Okay, great. But that's not the end. I need to now come in here and create a variable adder. So I want to set variable. Basically, I want to say every time I press the button go, sprite counter 2, the variable I just made, set it equal to the value of sprite counter 2 plus 1. So basically what we're doing is we're saying every time I press go, take the value of sprite counter 2, which first it's 0, and add 1. So the first time I press it, it's going to be turned into 1. The second time I press it, it's going to turn into 2. Next time I press it, it's going to turn into 3. So basically it's a counter. And we've over here said, as soon as we get to 15, we want to do something else. And so I'm going to add another case. What do we want it to do? Well, once we get to 15, we want to go ahead and move the mover panel, and this time I'm going to say 2, and I want to move it to 0, 0, because I've messed around with it, but it's inside of the other dynamic panel, which makes it easy. All I have to do is just say move to 0. So here we go. So then this is already an else if statement, so I don't have to say anything else because it's going to do it automatically. So what's happening now is it says if the value of sprite counter is less than 14, which is really 15, move the sprite mover to the left to the left 275 pixels, and keep on doing that until I reach that number. And once I reach that number, I want you to go back to 0. Oh yeah, one more important thing. The other thing we want to do is we want to set the value of a variable sprite counter. Set value of variable sprite counter to. We want to set it back to 0. So that way we can go, and then hit this, and then go back to 0. And so basically these will keep on looping as I press the go button. Generate prototype. So now, if all is well, I should just keep on I should be able to just keep on pressing go. And you can see everything went well. So I just keep on pressing, and you can see it just spins and spins and spins and spins forever. Well, that's really annoying. I don't want to keep on pressing it. So we want to automate the process, right? Now, it should also be known that this is a PNG, so it's transparent. And while you can't see it really there, we can go ahead and put something. Let's say I'm going to put this panel behind it and give it a linear gradient of. Let's start it at this. Let's start it at white and move it to this like nice blue, and it's 90. So we'll be able to see kind of what it looks like over a gradient. So now when I press go, I want it to just keep on going. Well, I need something else to handle the animation, right? So basically what I'm going to do is say, instead of putting all of those actions on go, I want to put the action on something that will loop itself. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy I'm going to cut both of those, and I'm going to come here to this panel, to this what I've called the sprite controller, and on move, I'm going to have it do the same what used to be on click, right? So now all I have to do here is create a new move panel, and I'm going to move the controller by 0, 0. So basically I'm not moving it, but I'm telling it trigger your onMove event. And what is the onMove event is to do basically what we had it doing before. But now it's only going to do it once. So we want it to keep on looping, right? So after you've run through here, what it needs to do is move the controller by 0, 0, right? And great. So move sprite controller. We'll put that down here at the bottom, and that'll keep it going. And then I want to do this. I copied and pasted it down here too. So basically, all I have to do is press go, and it's going to come in here and it's going to start. It's going to start controlling. So I press go. Go moves the spinner. The spinner now, it's going to first look to make sure the variable is less than 14. If the variable is less than 14, we'll see that it starts counting. But as soon as it gets to the end, it basically just hits it again and moves it again and moves it again. So basically, it'll just keep on looping forever. Now, that'll at least be nice for the sake of our demonstration, but we probably don't want it to loop forever. So let me go ahead and press go. Oh, and that didn't work. So I need to look at that and see what's going on, because I messed something up. Try it one more time. No, what am I getting? Try it one more time. I think it's going to fix itself. Well, this is a good chance to debug, see what's going on. So make sure that I'm doing things right. I press go, and it moves the sprite controller by 0, 0. Great. When I move the sprite controller, if the value of sprite counter 2 is less than 14, I want you to set the value of the variable. That's right. Move the sprite controller by 0. Oh. I know exactly what I did wrong. Okay, so there's one more thing that we need to add in there, because basically it's technically spinning as fast as the system will allow it, right? We need to put a wait. And what the wait time is going to do, I'm going to put that in front of the mover. What the wait time is going to do is it's going to say, okay, go to the next one. Wait 50 milliseconds. Go to the next one. Wait 50. So basically, this is the frame rate, in essence, is right here. So there's 15 frames, and the frame rate is 50 frames, or whatever, not 50 frames per millisecond, but every 50 milliseconds you see a new frame. So let's try this again. Nobody's perfect. So let's see here, radial. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. Oh no. Well, there's a chance you'll never even see all these problems because I will have fixed it. So sprite controller. If the sprite controller is less than 14, set variable 2 counters plus 1. Move sprite controller by there. Wait, sprite mover. Oh, that's okay. So we're looping too early. I have this in the wrong spot. So basically, it's like set the value, then move it. 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 And like it never even gets to this other part, right? So this we actually want to move the sprite controller at the very end. That's the very last thing that we want to do. Okay, let's try this one more time. Well, I guess these are good things that that have to be explained. So, and chances are many people will run into the same problem. So it's good. Hey, there we go. But it stopped. Hey, and it stopped. Hey, and it stopped. Hey, and it stopped. Hey, and it stopped. So at least we're on the right path, right? So basically. Oh, and it's the same problem here, right? The sprite mover is at the very top. We don't want it to be there. We want it to be at the very bottom. So now this will work. So that's an order issue. We want to make sure that we keep the order proper. So the first thing that we want to do is set the value to the next. Then we want to wait a couple seconds or a little bit. Well, and this wait can be there or it can be here. That's not so important. I'll go ahead and move it down there, and then else if. So once we do that, then we want to make sure it's the same order again. Do the addition, and then move the object back to 0, and then let's get started. So wait, move sprite mover by -275. Hold on. That's not supposed to be there. I think I must have just copied and pasted that improperly. So set value of a variable to 0 and move to 0. So let's check that out and see what happens. Okay, at this point, I will be editing this video. Okay, so let me look at this one more time. So it's less than 14, great. and I want to set the value of the variable sprite counter equal to 0, and I want to move the sprite counter, sprite mover. Oh, duh. Okay, what had happened is that I took this out. Well, I copied that in there, but this is supposed to be 0, 0. And so when I said, I noticed it had negative 275, and I said, why is that negative 275? That shouldn't be negative 275. So now, and this is supposed to be the sprite controller. Oh my gosh. I'm not sure how I messed that up that badly. Okay, well, maybe I won't be editing it. It's important. But hopefully you didn't make the same mistakes that I've been making repeatedly. Okay. Hooray! So you'll see that it's working. It's spinning and it looks nice. Looks like what we wanted it to. You'll see it's kind of bobbles a little bit, and that's no fault of Azure. That's the fault of Fireworks in dealing with these kind of shapes. It does kind of some weird stuff. It doesn't keep the center proper. But okay, so if I press it again, it'll actually go faster, and again it'll even go faster, and again it'll even go faster. And why that is, I have no clue. Let's see here. So the next thing that I want to do here is just show, okay, well, what if I want to have a go and a stop? Well, in order to have a go, all you have to do is, well, there's a couple different ways to do it. The way that I do it is I set a variable, and when I press go, I set that variable equal to go, and when I press stop, I set that variable equal to stop. And then on this controller, what I'm doing is saying, okay, on the if statement, I'm saying if it's less than 19, because this one had 20 spots, set it equal to go, and it's go. Then you start doing the magic. And also here, so it's always looking for this go to be able to do stuff. And if there's no go, then it doesn't do anything. So that's basically how I go and stop. And now let's look at this. So now dealing with grids, right? So I have different characters, and as you noticed before, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, repeat, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, repeat. So we basically just kept on repeating that top row. But now we're dealing with a grid, and since this grid goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically we have to do the same math. It says move, 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 move. But when we get here, we want to trigger another counter that moves it down to the next row. So we move it up 1 and start counting, and then moves it up 1 and starts counting. So basically we have two counters. One counter that's counting to see if we get to the end, and another counter that's counting to see when we get to the end here. So it's basically the same concept. And you can see here with the attached files, basically what I'm doing is I'm saying if it's less than 5 and the status is equal to go, this is what we built in the other one. But now I have a row counter, and the row counter is doing the same thing. As long as it's less than 4, keep on moving down once you get to the end of that. And then also if the variable status is equal to go, and that's what resets everything back to the very top. So that's dealing with animation. So if you want to deal with a grid or with a row animation, sprite sheet, hopefully you can do that now with a few less complications. I'd like to pretend like I'm perfect and don't run into anything, but the same mistakes that I made are going to be the same mistakes that are going to be made over on your side. So it's important, likely, because you'll be able to have less questions if something's not working because I just failed miserably. Okay, so the next thing that we're looking at is the button masters. And so basically what I'm doing here is, and got a kind of a sneak peek of this earlier. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and we can see all these buttons. And now what I've done is I numbered each one of these rows and columns. And I know that we're dealing with zeros because we're not initializing anything. So I'm saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I know that each one of these is like, I don't know, like 5 pixels wide, 5 pixels tall, with a padding of like 2 pixels or something like that. I can't remember. So basically what I'm doing now inside of here, it's the same thing, but I'm using this drop down to control this icon. So what I'm saying here is, if I've selected class, then set the icon row equal to 0 and the icon column equal to 0. So I basically am doing an XY coordinate based off of the icon grid that I just showed you. And that's really easy, right? It's an easy way to set it up to find them, and I could go through and I could create one for each one of those icons pretty quickly, based off of, you know, just that 1, 0. Now, if you have a custom icon sheet that you've made, the best way to do that is, you'll see from Fireworks, not only did I get this sprite sheet, but I also got this radial access CSS. So, and what this does is it gives me the CSS for if I wanted to, you know, create an animation, or if I wanted to select any one of those given radial positions. But what's important to us here is that we are dealing with the 10 pixel padding, but the position right here, this is the position that's important. This is where each one of it's located. Each one of them's located. So this is the, in this case, it would be the to position. Move to negative 285 pixels. This one would be 560. So you can see that it basically provides all of that information for you. But that's if we were dealing with two direct locations, which is what we're doing more in this icon style. So let me come in here and show you what I'm doing on the icon controller. So basically, what I've done here is I've said, okay, so I'm setting variables here. So I have a variable called icon row and a variable called icon column. So you'll want to create two variables. Just go up here to wireframe, manage variable, create two variables. One is icon row, one is icon column. And you're going to want to set that to the value that you want to move to. And then what are we doing once we get to the very end? I'm moving this icon controller by 0, 0. So I'm triggering this. Now, one thing where there's a common mistake is that when I put in a new case, it automatically wants to be an else if, and we always want this to happen. So I'm changing it to an if. So you right click on it and you say toggle else if. So see how it says else if true? That's the way it typically comes in from the beginning. So if you're finding it's just not working, always check to make sure that your if statements are if statements and not else if statements. So now this is where I'm doing a little bit of math, very simple math. I'm saying set the value. So the first thing I'm doing is setting the variable, the icon size equal to 24. So 24 is the width and or height of the icon plus the padding. So if each one of those are 20 pixels, and there's a 4 pixel padding, that's what that's equal to. And then I'm going to move the icon mover, which is that the sprite sheet dynamic panel. I'm going to move it to. If you come in here, I'm moving the icon mover, and you can see here if I click on effects, I'm moving the icon column times the icon size times -1, So basically, because I have to move it the opposite direction. So I'm saying what is the width? Okay, now multiply that by which column it is. Great. Now make that negative because that's how much I have to move it. And I'm doing the same thing with the y, but the y is going to be the icon row, of course. So I'm saying icon row times icon size set -1. So now, now that those two things are done, and I come up here to generate my prototype, you'll see that I click here, and if I select the letter, check mark, thumbs up, it's all working. See, and that's pretty great. So the question is now, how did I get these master panels to work? Well, the master panels are basically the exact same thing, except for I've put it inside of a master panel. So you'll see that here's the master panel. Here's a dynamic panel inside of the master panel, and inside of there you'll see that I have this little drop down behind there, so I can still the same way set the drop down to know where all of the different locations are, and that way when I come in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a raised event. And what a raised event does is, here, so let me go back to my main page. The nice thing about master panels is that you can have on-page loads. But what I want to do is I want to raise the on-page load event, which basically means that I can say what happens when the page loads from outside of the master panel. This is where it starts to get a little bit more complicated. And if you don't really understand raised events, this is probably not the place to learn it. You probably want to Google it, go onto the user forums to learn what raised events are. But basically what I'm doing is I'm raising, and I'm calling it icon select. And then I'm setting focus to the icon selector. And when I have the icon selector, this is the icon selector, and I have an on focus event that basically looks for and sets all of the icon based off of what the variables are. And there's other ways to do that, and you can play with it to find a better way if you feel it's necessary. And I put this inside of here so you can easily move it and get to it. But now, if I select each one of these, you can see this raised event. This event that I raised, that doesn't need to say 15 milliseconds. You can see that there's this raised event, and I am saying raised event. So on icon select, which is basically when this is loaded, and then I'm setting. What I'm doing is I'm selecting the option of selector 1, 2, and then I can select any one of these, and it's going to set it to that. And I thought that was the easiest way to do it. There's plenty of other ways. I could basically manage it directly and tell it where to move, but I think we're dealing with humans, and we ourselves are humans, and a little bit of work on beforehand makes it a lot easier later. So hopefully this is useful to you. If you have any questions, hopefully I already made those errors. That's so embarrassing. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it up there so that you can work through it in case you make the same problems that I was making. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. Thanks.